and other house.
Sorry, I forgot to hit record.
You want me to start over?
Oh, that's all right.
Okay. Anyway, when I was so I was in California for 8 years, and the reason I have this picture, this is a picture of my friend Melinda and me in Big Sur. The background is actually Carmel Beach. Melinda is still one of my best friends. She was one of my clients in the very beginning, and I met her, oh gosh, 20, at least 25 years ago. She owned a gift store in the Monterey airport and eventually she and her husband wound up partnering with another couple to buy the restaurant in the Monterey airport. And I worked with her for many, many years, and we became dear friends. We traveled all over together. And she hired me when I moved back to St. Louis to help her with her restaurant business. So I wound up doing marketing and photography. And I went out there for about 5 years in a row and helped her do her holiday party, took pictures, anyway. And every time I would go to California, in addition to the years I spent out there, I would bring my camera and I would take a lot of pictures of the environment. So it helped me get acclimated to being away from my hometown just by, and plus I was on the road by myself a lot. My husband traveled usually about 3 days a week. And so I was on my own quite a bit. And I just, I found I like being independent. I still do. Anyway, this is Melinda and her husband in their restaurant. And these are just some pictures I took in California, Monterey, Pacific Grove, and Capitola, where I lived briefly before my husband and I bought a condo in Aptos. And Aptos is really special because it was 10 minutes from the beach and we lived in the redwoods. And it was quite different than St. Louis, I have to say. A beautiful area to photograph the environment. I wasn't as focused on the people, but I did take pictures of my clients and their stores and their merchandising. And that I found was a great connector. And it's one of the reasons why I had the courage to jump into being a portrait photographer when I moved back to St. Louis, because I had a lot of experience on the road doing that. And it just was a great way to relate to these people. So when I moved back to St. Louis, I worked for a corporation, Unigroup, for 18 months. And that was great because I got my feet on the ground. I was able to get established financially and get acclimated to my community from that standpoint. But I'm not a corporate girl, but I was willing to give it my best shot. I was in their marketing and sales department for one of their divisions. But unfortunately, after being there for 18 months, the recession hit and they eventually completely eliminated my department. They outsourced everything that we did. And that was a bit of a shock. But I decided I wasn't going to let anybody else. I'd already worked 7 years for myself in California, and I really preferred that. But, it's always a big risk to do it. But after that experience, I decided that I was not going to let anybody else decide my future. And I started my own business. And I decided to do it in the photography business initially. I did that for a year, and it was difficult, especially in the recession. But the great thing about it is I had an opportunity to join several networking groups. And it was during that time that I decided I needed to add more to my business. And I went into marketing. And I already had a business degree from Merits, and I had done a lot of my own marketing. And I'd already been doing a blog on WordPress. And during the time I was in networking, I also learned how to do web design. And that became my bread and butter for 15 years. And I did digital marketing, a lot of different things around that area. But one of the things that always differentiated me in my business was my willingness and ability to do photography. And it kept getting better and better as the years went by, and I had a lot more experience in the portrait arena. I started doing a lot of events, and I started doing a lot of photography for web design because I did it for my own clients. And I also did it for other web designers or companies that had hired web designers because that was kind of my forte. And I incorporate a lot of pictures of St. Louis in a lot of these web, opportunities. So that was also a personal, professional reason for me to do that. And the reason I have these books up here is one, Bright Spots actually is a book that was published during the recession. It's an anthology book with 39 authors, and it was compiled by Kathy Davis, who owns Davis Creative with her husband. And she was actually a client at the time. I built their website, And I've taken a lot of pictures of Kathy over the years. And she invited me to be part of this anthology. And the chapter that I wrote was about how I uh, learned about branding on the road when I was in California, and how the successful stores, the independent gift stores, really knew how to brand themselves. That's why they were successful. They knew their clients, they knew their the products that they needed to sell. They were really brilliant at it. And in fact, I put together quite a few of the information that they share, and a lot of research that I did. And I published a book in 2005 that was a handbook for independent retailers that included a lot of things I learned while I was on the road. So I had already had the experience of self-publishing. And when Kathy asked me to be part of this book, it was just a new experience in the publishing world that I was honored to be part of. And my chapter is about personal branding, and it talks a little bit about how I did that on the road with my own clients, and then how I did it in the networking world by photographing people, by volunteering a lot. So that first year, I showed up everywhere. I mean, I probably did, I don't know, 75 uh, business portraits that first year for little or no money. And I photographed many, many events as my give back to the community. And that experience helped me build my network. And to this day, I still get referrals from that. And that was back in 2009. So it was a God thing for sure, that I had that opportunity. So this Bright Spots chapter is a lot about that, and how photography differentiated me from other marketers, because I was able to use that as a connector. And also I have used St. Louis as my studio for 20 years. Well, for 17 years. That's how long I've been, legally in business. But it's been a thrill for me to do that. And so I have quite a collection. I have 41,000 pictures on Flickr. And I started doing that in 2006. It was my first cloud. So I have a huge resource of pictures. And about 3 or 4 years ago, my kids said to me, Mom, you need to create a book of your work. And we'd love to have that, in the family. So that was my inspiration for creating this book, Exploring St. Louis, a Photographer's Journey. And it's really just a compilation of pictures I've taken that are of my really favorite neighborhoods and parks in the county and the city. And it's only 48 pages. It has an image wrap. It was done by Blurb. It was an expensive book to produce because it's self-published, and it's one at a time. I mean, you can order them in bulk. But anyway, I could do a whole program just on publishing books. I know Marion's already done that through with the Kindle program. And I actually, well, we'll talk about this a little bit later. At the end of this, I'm going to explain where I am now with my publishing going forward. But this was a great experience. I learned a lot from it, and I'm proud of it. And I gave it as Christmas presents to a lot of people, sold some of them. And it really wasn't designed to be put into circulation, but it gave me the bug to do more. So anyway, that's just a preface. So this next part here is actually taking you through all of the neighborhoods and parks that I have in the book. But the pictures that are in here aren't exactly like they are in the book. Some are in the book and some are not. So I just threw this together to make it a little bit different. I'm also incorporating pictures of people that I photographed in these areas to show you how I use St. Louis as my studio. So we start with the St. Louis neighborhoods, city neighborhoods. I have a lot more of those in here. In fact, I broke downtown into 4 different sections because it's so big. So of course, this is the bridge, the Eads Bridge on the riverfront, which is the first section. And then I'm just including this because it's one of my favorite events to photograph in St. Louis. And it's so unique and so St. Louis. And as you can see, I have some people from, these are people that actually are usually at the photo floods. Yvonne and I went down to photograph this, and we just happened to run into them and took some pictures together. So that was a lot of fun. And then I have Kababi and Norm Forever, who were 2 of the artists that had work there. Norm's painting is from this year. I think Kababi's is from a couple of years ago, but I just like that picture of him. And of course, he's all over town, as most of you know. So it's always fun to run into him. Then we have downtown, and the picture on the left is of a family I've known for several years through my business. And I've taken family portraits of them many times. And it just so happens that Anne Pranette, who is in this picture, was on the board of the Gateway Arch Foundation to help them with this, the big project, that occurred. And they wanted to have their family portrait done in front of the arch for that reason. So a lot of times people will choose a location because it's meaningful to them. It's part of their life. The picture on the right was taken from the Civil Courts building on the 13th floor, which is the library. It has a beautiful view. It was a beautiful evening. It was a celebration of life that I was photographing, and it was a probably one of the most meaningful photography events I've ever been involved in. But being on the 13th floor of the Civil Courts building requires special permission, and I was very honored to be up there. So that was really amazing. And we were lucky we had such a beautiful evening. This is also downtown. Bill Ellis is in the upper left-hand corner. That picture was taken from Spark, which is in the Ballpark Village. It's a co-working community that also has regular businesses that rent out of there. And he was working with a marketing company that was doing a new website for him and wanted to have some pictures taken, with some of the iconic backgrounds. And Bill was one of my first clients. He's the first person who asked me to do a portrait at the Forest Park Muni area. And I've been doing portraits from there ever since. And so he introduced me to the idea. And Forest Park, I use Forest Park for at least 60% of my photo shoots. And not always at the Muni and Nathan Frank Bandstand, but all over in front of the waterfall. I mean, you name it, I've been there. The courthouse, not the courthouse, the History Museum, the Art Museum. I mean, we have so many backdrops in Forest Park. It's endless. So I love it. I'm always a member because, they're my studio. It's cheap rent. So anyway, courthouse, of course, it's under construction right now. But, this was taken before that. And I have many pictures of the courthouse, the arch, the courthouse, and the Nathan Frank Bandstand probably is what I photographed the most in St. Louis. The picture below that is the National Women's Political Caucus members. This was taken, I don't know, maybe 4 years ago. Anyway, they wanted to have a portrait of as many members as they could get down to Keener Plaza for this banner for their website. I actually wound up going there twice, and that was really challenging because the first time was sunny, the second time wasn't quite as sunny. And then some of the members couldn't make it to either one. So I cloned about 3 people into this. This was a very, very difficult project because of all the stuff I had to do. I mean, just to get the right location the second time to make it work was really interesting. So, but anyway, they were happy with it. That's all that matters, always. So now we go to Old North St. Louis. I haven't spent a lot of time there, but I think it's a fascinating area. My mother actually lived there when she was like in kindergarten in that neighborhood. And it has a lot of beautiful buildings. And fortunately, many of them have been renovated. We all, I think, mostly relate to Crown Candy, which is a St. Louis landmark, wonderful place to visit. And then you have the mural of Jesse Owens across from the Crown Candy. And on the lower right-hand corner, I don't know if all of you have seen the Container Home, but it's right down the block from Crown Candy. And it was owned by Travis Sheridan, who used to run what's the name of that? He was very active with Cortex. He ran a lot of things down at Cortex. And he had this container house built and turned into like a little art museum with murals on the side. And it's just fascinating. It's so different than anything else that's in that neighborhood. But the thing that's wonderful about it is that it showcases what can be done with the old and the new to merge them together. And he has since moved out of town and sold the house. And I think he sold it for a pretty good penny. So, there is revitalization going on in these parts of town. And here's just a few more examples of North St. Louis. This is like the business district in the upper left-hand corner. And that's 14th Street where they've renovated a lot of those buildings for businesses. And then, of course, it's a residential building on the right. And then down below is a photo flood that we did in the North City area all over the place. We were in the train yard and we went to the Cotton Belt building and we were just all over the place. Anyway, it was a lot of fun. It's not something I would do by myself. I was happy to have a group to go with, and it was just a super experience. This is, of course, downtown West Union Station. I've taken a lot of pictures of this absolutely gorgeous piece of architecture. It's again one of my favorites, in the top 10 for sure. This is the picture that that will be in the Soulard Art Gallery tomorrow. One of them. So I chose that for the I Love St. Louis because it's one of my favorites. And then this is a night view of Union Station, and this is the Ferris wheel view down below, which I went on with my grandson. Took me a long time to get up there, but I finally made it. And then, of course, this is my son, Brian, in front of the soccer stadium across the street, which is part of that whole downtown West revitalization. Is very exciting. He's very involved in St. Louis stuff, so I want to take some pictures of him there. So you'll also see a picture of my daughter in one of these. I take my children out for their birthdays every year, and I take portraits of them. I also do it during my birthday with my daughter, and they go along with it. They're always really sweet about it. I mean, they're in their 40s, but they're still cool about it. So I appreciate that. And here we are in Soulard. Some of you may have been part of this event. This was another photo flood that we did a couple of years ago in the fall. I think it was the early fall, and it just so happened that when we were doing the photo flood early in the part of this, we were around the Soulard farmers market, and this band started playing, and then all these people started coming out, and it just so happened it was a big wedding party. And one of the things they were doing for their party was walking through Soulard in a parade with everybody who attended the wedding, with this band leading the parade. You talk about a golden opportunity for street photography. It was absolutely amazing. And those of us who participated really, really lucked out. So, and of course, I love this because Soulard is so New Orleans, it's so French, so Mardi Gras. And this tells the story, like some of the pictures I'm showing you are clients, they're family, friends, and some of them are just street pictures, just things we happen to run across that make our photography, really our own part of our own story. So we have more pictures of Soulard. Soulard is one of my favorite neighborhoods. I'm going to be there tomorrow night with, maybe at the end of this, y'all can talk about who else is going to be part of this show. I actually did about 3 of the art shows. It's at Soulard Art Gallery right around the time they first opened up, which was back in 2007. And when I moved back to California, or St. Louis from California, one of the ways I got integrated in the community before I even got really involved in the entrepreneurial world was through the art community. And I did a fair amount of art shows back then. I think about 3 of them at Soulard Art Gallery. But I haven't exhibited there for many, many years. Just a lot of stuff has been happening along the way. And it's great to be back there. It's such a beautiful building, and they do a great job. I've been to many of their receptions for other people, but I have not personally exhibited anything. So anyway, I think it's a fascinating area. Love the Mardi Gras. This picture is of my friend Katie Bannister and her husband. I don't know, a lot of you know Katie, but Katie is a local, oh gosh, she does everything. She sings, she writes songs, she writes plays, she stars in plays. She is a quadriplegic who was in an accident like 30 years ago, and she could run circles, wheels around me with the talent that she has. So she's kind of been a big part of my life the last several years, taking a lot of pictures of her and her husband all over town. And we happened to meet for lunch one day, and I just tried to find pictures that relate to the neighborhood. So I wanted to share Katie here and her husband, Steve. This is probably one of the most elegant, in addition to maybe the Central West End neighborhoods in St. Louis. Absolutely stunning. The row houses, the renovations that have been done here are just out of this world. And I go to Lafayette Square a lot. I love to walk in their park. I did a photo shoot last year at the Squires Annex with the Junior League of St. Louis. And these are some of the movers and shakers at the Junior League. I've done about 4 events with them. And this is the only event I believe I've done in this area. And then we're off to Benton Park. Wait a minute. I think I'm missing one here. Oh, well. Benton Park, of course, is the name of this mansion Yvonne is?
Chatillon de Manille.
Yeah,
Chatillon de
she can,
Manille.
she pronounces it better than I do. So I let her do it. Anyway, I was able to get a pretty good shot of this. As you know, it's like right off 55, and it's really hard to get a shot of this whole building. But got this several years ago, and it's one of the grand mansions of St. Louis, and it's located in Bent Park, which has such a rich history between the mostly because of the Lemp family. But there's just a lot going on there, a lot of variety. And these are two people that I photographed on Cherokee Street. Emily Lane and I actually got together several years ago, and we talked about our dream jobs, what it was we wanted to do. And Emily was known for her fashion sense. She's like a fashionista, I guess you'd say, and she wears a lot of vintage clothing in particular. And in this picture, she actually has on, a vintage outfit and a bag from Karl Lagerfeld that was signed by him, and she's carrying her dog in it. And Emily's dream was to become a fashion influencer. And since this date, which was, oh, I don't know, maybe 6 years ago, she has become the chief strategist of a fashion company in St. Louis called Stars Design. And she does work with the Fashion Fund, Washington University, Nordstrom's, and people all over the world. She travels all over the world for fashion. And so she went from, and at the time she was working in marketing, but she completely shifted gears. And me, I just wanted to do more of that. I wanted to photograph more people like her, tell their stories. And since then, I've been able to do a lot more of it with St. Louis as a backdrop. Mish Hancock is pictured on the right. Mish owns her own marketing company. And she also is the license holder for TEDx in St. Louis. And she is a dear, dear friend of mine. I love her so much. And anyway, this was taken at the gate, or I guess that's a door, at the right in front of the Lemp Brewery. So Cherokee Street is so rich with backgrounds. A lot of the neighborhoods are, but this one in particular is absolutely stunning for portrait backgrounds. So here we are on the hill at the Piazza Emo, which is absolutely beautiful. I also visited this last year during Christmas, and it was so pretty to see it at night all lit up. So I've never done, I've done some casual, friend pictures in this area, but I never have done a formal portrait here. But one day I ran across this lady named Rose who was selling her cookbooks, and she lived on the hill. And this was in front of maybe Guido's, I think, where she was standing. And I bought one of her cookbooks, and I said, "Can I take your picture with your cookbooks?" So I thought that was kind of fun because she was so the hill, she just kind of had that, look about her. So, and then a picture on the right, when I found out they were doing the crosswalks and in the colors of Italy, the Italian flag, I said, I got to get over there while they're fresh. So I got over there about 2 weeks after they painted these and took these pictures. And when you go there now, of course, they're very faded and, it's definitely not like this, but it's still pretty cool. I love that they did that. Oh, and I'm going to go back again. And then you can see the Hyde Park go sign is behind these pictures. It's the one that's off of the main drag there, whatever it's called right now. And that's another, we have a lot of brewery stories, old and, current from St. Louis Pass. And a lot of them are depicted in ghost signs all around town. And in fact, one of the reasons Mish and I were in, where was it? Benton Park, is because we were looking for ghost signs. She and I are both big fans of those. And so we were looking for, we found several to photograph, and it was just like a hunt, treasure hunt. So then and also one thing I didn't mention to you is that everything that I'm sharing with you is in the order of the way they were put into my gift book. And when I thought about many, many times how I'm going to lay all these out, I knew I wanted to do neighborhoods and parks, but I didn't know what order I was going to do. And so I decided to focus on the city first. And then I basically did these in chronological order. So some of these areas were developed around the same time. But if I looked all of them up and I did it by the date of establishment. So when you're seeing this is kind of how they fell into place in our history. So we have the Grandel Theater. I've done Mama Said events there, I don't know, 3 times, I think. And it's a great event space, wonderful. Sheldon's great for concerts and art shows. And then, of course, I love the colored furniture in the middle of the square there. It's pretty cool. And this is another example of, some of the different things that you see in Grand Center between the murals and, of course, the Fox Theater and Olive Grand Avenue. This was taken from the On God, which has such wonderful views, and I love to go there at night. Just happened to hit a sunset this particular evening. This is my friend Deb Gott. She is started out as a client and has become a dear friend, which I have a lot of those, fortunately. And we took these pictures on a day where we used many, many backgrounds in Grand Center, but this one was particularly good for a business portrait. And this is actually at the Pulitzer Arts Foundation. And when you first walk into the entrance, the textures in that building are just fabulous for portraits. So then we get into the Central West End, again, another glorious, gorgeous neighborhood in St. Louis, and the Cathedral Basilica being the star of the show, definitely on the inside. I tend to focus more on the outside. And a lot of the reason for that is because it's about permission more than anything. I feel like the inside needs more, like I need to have a letter stating that I can print these. And if you're outside, it's kind of like street photography. I just feel like, anything goes. So that's why you see a lot more of my photography of the outdoors. Plus, I love architecture. I love art. Anything that's outdoors that I can legally do, and then I'm going to do it. Left Bank Books, of course, is a St. Louis iconic location for a lot of great reasons. And then I have the picture in the upper right-hand corner of the various types of architecture you can find in the Central West End, including the, I don't know, 100 apartments building or whatever it's called in the background, which has had a lot of comment, but I personally think it's awesome. And then you have a street scene here of a beautiful evening in the Central West End that's typical of what you see there during the season. And then the Grove, another one of my favorite neighborhoods, just because it's so artsy and it's so unique. And it's so open to so many people and things. I just love that about it. Again, murals everywhere. I just read an article where it stated they have 60 outdoor murals and 50 indoor murals in that neighborhood. And just going on a treasure hunt there is a blast. So I have just some pictures of the murals that people can identify with. My son took a picture of me, and it says work and play, which, is really, I've done photography for both, and I'm doing a lot more for play now, which is pretty cool. And then the Melroy's building is kind of typical of the architecture that's in the neighborhood. And here we have some more at the famous Grove sign, the sauce on the side in the lower right or left-hand corner. And that particular building, and honestly, most of the buildings that are in the Grove have been restored by, I think it's called Renovation St. Louis. I think it's the name of the company. A relative of mine actually worked for them for a while, and they have just poured millions and millions of dollars into preserving and creating opportunities for people in this neighborhood. And it's the reason why it's so vibrant. And they've been able to add a lot of new things and new restaurants and apartment buildings. It's just really come back. And I think it's absolutely awesome. And so the building on the right used to be Atomic Cowboy. It is now Atomic by Jamo. It's a little bit different flavor, I think more events, and it's a brand new mural. They covered up the old one, painted a brand new one. And it wasn't open yet. It was about 6 weeks from being open when I took this picture, but it's definitely open now. So Bevo Mill, of course, is amazing place to go. So happy that Das Bevo is there and that they have all these events, and you can go there for brunch, and it's just like going back to the old country, with music, and it's really special. So this is Little Bevo, and Little Bevo is directly across from the Big Bevo Mill, and it is an event space that is a private event space. And when we were doing a photo shoot, I was wanting another photo flood in that area. It just so happened the owner went in there while we were taking pictures and invited us in to see it on the inside. And it was a special treat to be able to see it and photograph it on the inside because it's really tied into obviously the Anheuser-Busch company and everything that they did in the past, along with the Bevo Mill itself. So that was a special experience. And then the Peppers Bar is just another example of the architecture that's in the area and some of the artwork and the murals in the building. There are murals are all around Bevo Mill neighborhood. And, it's another thing that ties it to the other neighborhoods in town that I think is remarkable. We have so many incredible artists and places that are willing to show their work. And then this is a family friend, and I took this picture. This was actually a year ago on my birthday, and it was like 55 degrees, a little different this year. But we went out and we were outside at the Bevo Mill that day. So this just shows you never know what to expect every year. Now we're getting to the city parks. And I'll go back to this other picture. The picture that's on here. Wait a minute, it's not showing here. Sorry. I'm not getting the, let me move this. Maybe this will help. My arrow disappeared.
Yeah, you changed it into a pen or something accidentally, I think.
Oh. Okay, sorry about that. Oh, okay, I got it back now. It just says yellow marks all over. Live and learn. I'm doing this through Canva. I have it as a PowerPoint, but you can do it through Canva this way. And I thought I'll give it a try. Anyway, this picture is this is a very dull picture that I took one November. But what made it special is the fact that the sun was shining on this grass, these grasses all around the bridge in Forest Park. And it just gave me an opportunity to play around with it, turn into something a little bit different. So I added a couple of textures to this to make it more of a piece of digital art. So I like it. It looks better in person than it does on here. But anyway, here we are in Tower Grove Park at the pond and at the concert pavilion. And this is my daughter, Kelly. I took this many years ago. But it's like the only picture I have of a person that I really like in Tower Grove Park. So I decided to include that. It's a great place to do portraits. I just haven't done much there. And then, of course, there's the Piper Palm House, which is stunning, is one of the most stunning pieces of architecture, especially during lotus season. I think most of us probably have been there during that time, and it's just spectacular. Then we go to Forest Park, and I guess we're going to have yellow pen on all of these. Sorry about that. Anyway, Forest Park, as I mentioned, is where I do like 60% of my shoots. I've done events there. I actually photographed the Donnybrook show there at the visitor center one time for a group that had hired the people who do Donnybrook, from 9 PBS. And I photographed the whole event with them talking on the stage and all that. That was really different and kind of cool. Anyway, so the visitor center is where I usually meet people. It's just a great location because it has water fountains and you can change clothes in there and it's just comfortable. And there are a lot of places around there, especially now that they finished those basketball courts and the handball courts, all that stuff's improved. There are a lot of wonderful textured backgrounds back there. There are places for people to sit and create like a little business. What am I trying to say? Like vignettes. Sometimes it'll be with other people. This gal up here, her name's Kobe. I did her portrait last year in fall, as you can see. She brought her dog along, and the dog was in about 50% of the picture. Best dog I've ever met in my life. That dog would do anything she asked it to do. And that was rare because usually the dogs are not that cooperative. But I have shot a lot of dogs and a lot of kids. Don't do a lot of it anymore. But that was the picture she liked the most. And we set up a lot of sort of business portrait types of like showing books that she liked, and she was having a cup of coffee at a table. And, we just did a lot of that kind of stuff. And I said, when I come to Forest Park, I always recommend that we do some iconic pictures from St. Louis, because I think that you will appreciate that later because that was not her goal. Well, this turned out to be her favorite picture. So I'm glad she went along with me. Anyway, and I just did a picture at the Jewel Box week before last. Jewel Box is ready, and unless they're having an event or something's happened to shut it down, it's available for portraits year round. And I've had to take people there during storms when we were doing shoots like around the Muni because it was a great option. So these are just some general pictures of our beautiful park, our Jewel, art museum, obviously. The lower left-hand corner picture is the one I put on my gift book because it was such a panoramic picture and it fit in the front and the back beautifully. So, I was able to make that work. It's the part I like the most about the book, to be honest with you. It really turned out good. Anyway, and then of course the STL Rocks is from the time they had that music exhibit. And now it's the I Love STL, which is the focus they're going down. And they just put a new mural in the gift shop, which is the I Love STL in red, yellow, well, the St. Louis colors, the yellow, blue, and red, and it's absolutely beautiful. Just a note. Now we're going into City Garden, and of course, this is the view of the Civil Courts building from the pond, and this in the fall. It was just, it's just so gorgeous. Of course, St. Louis in the fall anywhere is gorgeous, but this was particularly pretty. And then, of course, one of the things I'm glad they still have a restaurant in that building because it's glass on three sides. And I didn't know it has a sedum roof on top of it. So it's like, grass on the top, which we can't see. But there's also a statue from a famous sculptor in there. I can't think of her name, but she's lived in New York and France. And I saw an exhibit of hers in Kansas City last year. But I didn't realize that was her that had that statue in there. So if you ever go in there, it's very colorful and she's very famous and it's very cool that we have it. Anyway, so we have the rabbit, we have the two arcs, I think it's called 2x2 arcs or something. And this is just a kid that was in the fountain, the little fountains that go up and down, that was checking himself out in the fountains. I thought it was kind of fun. And now we're exploring St. Louis County neighborhoods. I have 3 of these and then we'll be finished. This is, of course, where I live in Kirkwood. I've taken a lot of pictures of Kirkwood, a lot of pictures, particularly the train station. It's kind of my Nathan Frank bandstand of Kirkwood. So, I've done it in many different situations and I'm very happy that they're renovating that and keeping it so beautiful because it's very special to the town. It has an amazing history. And Kirkwood, of course, was the first suburb of St. Louis. And because it was because of the trains, of course, that made it easy for the first settlers to come out and establish it. And just has an absolutely fascinating history. I went on a docent tour of it, even though I live here for 2 hours. I learned so many things about the town I had no idea. And it was just fascinating. Those docent tours are fantastic. And I intend to go on a lot more of them this year since I love St. Louis so much. Anyway, so we have downtown, we have the Colton building, which used to provide supplies to the farmers, and the OK Hatchery, same kind of thing. It was really like almost a farm town in the very beginning. So they've managed to preserve a lot of that, and it's cool. And this, of course, was the big boy train that came through, I don't know how many years ago, 3 maybe years ago. Yeah, it was an extraordinary experience to witness that and to see just the people and their response to it. This was right as it was coming out of the Kirkwood station. I was standing on the bridge, the overpass, when I got this picture. And it was actually put on the Kirkwood Police Station website for a while. So that was kind of fun. This is, they have the good, what is it, Cars and Guitars show every year. And this is a picture from that with some of the people and the activities. It's just one of the fun events that they have. Kirkwood Park is in the lower left-hand corner, which is beautiful, gorgeous park. And then, of course, the farmers market is outstanding. It's another reason I love living here. Webster Groves is another, community that was built close to the same time as Kirkwood for the same reason. It's very, very, very much on the rail or the trains path, and a lot of the rich people from St. Louis came out and built homes that were considered like their vacation homes in these areas, and it all evolved from there. So last October, I was hired by the neighbors of Webster Groves magazine to photograph their covers and do some food photography for the food reviews they do in their magazine every month. And so I'm showing you some pictures that were on the covers here. The one on the upper left-hand corner was a family that lives in Webster Groves that does supper clubs in their outbuilding in their backyard. They're both they're both chefs, and with a little boy, he's 2 years old, absolutely wonderful couple. And that was the October issue, and it was my debut. So that was very special to me. And then for the I guess it was the January issue, I met Patrick and Annie Murphy at the Webster Groves Garden Cafe, and that is their hangout. And that's where they wanted to have their picture taken for the cover. So I met them there. I've met Patrick a few times in the past. He's so gracious. Both of them were wonderful, and we had some great conversations while we were there. Anyway, so that was the January issue. And the next issue coming up is going to be a Betty's Books. And this is Betty Bear and her family. And they were adorable with the kids and all that. So that was really fun. So they're all different, and I'm looking forward to hearing who's going to be next because I never know. Anyway, this is Olive and Oak on the upper right-hand corner. I just happened to catch it on a very pretty day, and used to be like a car dealership, way back in the day. And again, Webster, Kirkwood, all of these areas, the area in Grand Center, that used to be Auto Row. I mean, they have preserved all these amazing buildings and turned them into these absolutely wonderful venues. And, that's one of the things that St. Louis does well. Anyway, this is at Blackburn Park in the last fall, and it's a park I love to walk in. And this is the last one. It's University City, of course, with the trolley. This one was taken last year. Also the Walk of Fame and Fitz's. I like this picture because Fitz's is kind of a classic St. Louis business, especially in University City, and a restaurant, of course. And it has a mural on it, one of the early murals. It's kind of a combination of two things because they've added so many more new murals to the area, which are well worth a visit over and over again. I love that they've done that. I love this city. I think it's amazing. And these are just more examples. So in addition to the murals, they have all these fabulous signs, these metal signs that are along the sidewalks, like this hello sign. They added the Magic Golf one last year when they opened up that putt-putt golf, which is very much like Blueberry Hill. So they just keep doing a good job. And of course, Vintage Vinyl is a classic, iconic location with the Chuck Berry mural on the side of it. And, we're just so lucky to have all the diversity and magic and things that change and grow and the arts. And I mean, there's so much to photograph. It's endless. I love it. Anyway, so the journey continues. When I did the gift book, I really got the bug to do another book. I want to do something that was that I could share with more people, that was more affordable, that had more pictures in it and had a lot more descriptions. More of almost a guidebook, either for someone who wants to know more about St. Louis or for people who would like to photograph more of St. Louis. So I just ordered the proof of Exploring St. Louis Through a Lens, which is my paperback copy. It's about half the price of the gift book, and I'm going to be putting it on Amazon. So, so I'm supposed to get the proof copy on Saturday. It'll probably be on Amazon by mid-March, I hope. It has 119 pictures and 4,700 words. And it took me about a tenth of the time to produce because I already had so much done with the other book. And I had gone through the process with Blur with their BookWrite software. So I had it down pretty good. I mean, one of the biggest challenges is getting the spacing right and the pictures situated properly. And of course, this time, because I did so much more text, I proofed and proofed and proofed. So anyway, it's almost there, and I'm very excited to be able to produce and share it. And I hope to do one on Missouri the end of this year. So, and it will be more, it'll be more architectural and cultural and artistic based, kind of like these two books. You know, that's really my forte. And so anyway, that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Thank you, Karen.
You're
If-
welcome.
I was gonna say, if everybody wants to unmute and talk, that's fine. Caren, this has been wonderful.
Thank you.
Yeah, and you've inspired me to take some notes on possible field trips for us, such as signs in the Grove, ghost signs, the U City murals, and seeing that sign in U City that that last sign that was neon. It would be cool to kind of shoot some neon signs. And these may not be field trips, but perhaps these could be some of the monthly shoots that Anita sets up for us.
I love that.
Yeah.
So what I do with my friends, my family, and my clients who become friends also is what I call exploriences. And I didn't coin that word. I saw it on the Oregon like tourist thing. I said, experiences are exactly what I do. So what I try to do is find like the best, you know, the best landmark where they have the entertainment, where they have, like you said, the neon signs, whatever it is that's indicative of that neighborhood, and go and experience it with other people. And of course, I always have my camera with me. So when I showed you that picture um, of the people I shot on Cherokee Street, Emily, like Emily was the first person I did an experience with. And that was like 6 years ago. And so I've been doing it ever since. And it's just worked. It's been so much fun. And I've been able to experience a lot of things that I've been doing with my camera with other people because of it. And also getting to know the city better and introducing a lot of other people to things they didn't know. And I really do believe it's given them a greater appreciation as well. So that's been really special. So yeah, if we can do more of that in the group here, I think that would be fantastic.
Yeah, it would be fun to do field trips, although some of these would be like the Grove would be a good field trip. U City murals would be a good field trip. Ghost signs and neon signs would be a possible monthly thing. Anita, take note. Um, and if when we had these meetings, if anybody else is inspired like I was, take a note and share it with me, and we'll post it out there on the Facebook page, and we'll come up with some events to do.
Yeah, we could start a list, you know, of maybe of places to go that people are interested in,
Right.
and how they relate. You know, I think that'd be super.
Right. Okay, so some of you joined after we started here, and actually, I think I can go ahead and stop recording at this